Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speak English with Mishu. I'm Emily, and I'm so happy you're here with us today. How's your week been so far? For me, it's been a busy but exciting week. I started reading a new book in English about mindfulness, and it really helps me stay calm during stressful days.
Hey friends, I'm Liam. And yeah, Emily, my week's been pretty good too, though a little tiring. I've been working on some new English lessons for the channel and trying to balance that with my studies. But you know what? Even when I feel tired, I always find a little time to practice English because that's what keeps me motivated.
That's the spirit, Liam. And today we have a very special episode lined up for you. We're going to take you on a full day in our lives, sharing what we do from morning until night, speaking only in English. Why? Because it's a perfect way for you to practice listening with real, natural conversations and daily phrases.
Exactly. This is not just a story. It's like you're right here with us, listening to how we speak English in everyday life. We'll talk about everything from waking up, breakfast, study time, going outside, to relaxing in the evening.
And don't worry if you're a beginner or feel your listening skills aren't strong yet. We're going to speak slowly and clearly, and we'll pause sometimes to explain useful words or expressions. Plus, we'll share tips on how you can practice these phrases yourself.
That's right. We want to make this episode like your personal English classroom that feels friendly, fun, and helpful. And the best part? You can listen anytime while doing chores, on a walk, or relaxing.
Before we start our day, let's check in with you. How often do you practice listening to English every day? Is it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or maybe less? Don't worry, there's no perfect amount. What matters is that you start and stay consistent.
Yes, even if it's just a few minutes, you're building your brain's ability to understand English better and better every time you listen.
And remember, listening is not just about hearing words, it's about feeling the rhythm, understanding the meaning, and connecting with the emotions behind the words. That's why today's episode is special. We'll share real feelings and stories, not just textbook sentences.
So let's get cozy, maybe grab a cup of tea or water, and join us for a day filled with simple English, useful phrases, and fun learning moments. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's start with the most important part of every day, the morning. How do you start your mornings, Liam?
Well, Emily, I usually wake up around 7 a.m. The first thing I do is stretch a little because it helps me feel awake. Then I brush my teeth and wash my face. After that, I like to listen to some English while making breakfast.
That sounds great. Stretching is so helpful. I like to open the window and take a deep breath of fresh air. It wakes me up and clears my mind.
Perfect. And while you do that, you can practice some simple English sentences to describe your actions. For example, I'm stretching my arms, or I'm breathing fresh air.
Exactly. And don't worry if you can't say everything perfectly yet. The goal is to get used to the sounds and rhythms. Little by little, your confidence will grow.
We'll show you more of these throughout the day. For now, imagine you just woke up. Let's say it together slowly. I wake up at 7 o'clock. I get out of bed. I brush my teeth.
Nice. Try to say these sentences out loud after us. It helps your speaking and listening together.
And if you want, you can write down your own morning routine in English. Then try to say it every day. It's a fantastic way to learn vocabulary that you'll use all the time.
All right, friends, that's the start of our day. In the next part, we'll dive into how listening every day, even in small moments, can change your English skills faster than you think.
Stay tuned and get ready to practice with us. We're just getting started.
Welcome back, everyone. Before we move further into our day, I want to take a moment to talk about why practicing your listening skills is so important, especially when you're learning English. A lot of learners tell me that even though they can read and write pretty well, they struggle to understand spoken English. Does that sound familiar to you?
It definitely sounds familiar to me. When you listen to native speakers, it can feel like they're speaking too fast or using words and phrases you don't know. It's easy to feel lost or frustrated. But here's the good news. Listening is a skill, just like speaking or reading, and it can be improved with practice.
That's right. When you listen regularly, your brain gets used to the sounds and rhythms of English. It starts to recognize common words, sentence patterns, and expressions naturally. This makes it easier to understand what people say in real conversations, movies, or podcasts.
And it's not only about understanding words. Listening helps you learn the way people really speak, the contractions, the changes in tone, the informal phrases that textbooks don't always teach. For example, instead of I am going to, people often say I'm gonna. These small changes can make a big difference when you're trying to understand fast speech.
Exactly. Another important thing is that good listening helps your speaking skills improve. When your brain hears English often, you start to copy the pronunciation, sentence structure, and vocabulary without thinking too much. This means you can speak more fluently and naturally.
I remember when I started learning English, I spent a lot of time reading and writing, but didn't practice listening enough. When I finally focused on listening to podcasts and watching videos, I noticed big improvements. It was like my brain was training itself to catch words faster and understand different accents.
And you don't have to spend hours every day to see progress. Even 10 to 15 minutes of focused listening can make a huge difference if you do it regularly. The key is consistency and choosing the right kind of material, something interesting and at the right level for you.
That's why today's episode is designed to help you practice listening with real, everyday English. We'll speak slowly and clearly, and we'll share moments from our daily life that you can relate to and learn from.
Plus, we'll explain useful phrases and vocabulary as we go along, so you can build your understanding step by step. And the best part is, you can listen anytime, whether you're relaxing at home, commuting, or even doing chores.
So before we jump back into our day, I encourage you to find a comfortable spot, maybe grab a notebook or your phone, and get ready to listen closely. Try to catch the words and phrases we use, and don't worry if you don't understand everything at first.
That's completely normal. Listening takes time and patience. The important thing is to keep practicing and not give up. Remember, every bit of listening helps your brain get stronger.
All right, with that in mind, let's continue our day and move on to our morning routine, where you'll hear how we use English naturally while doing simple daily tasks.
Sounds good. Let's get started. All right, Liam, I want to talk about something many English learners struggle with: understanding spoken English in real life. I hear this a lot from our listeners. They say, I can read and write English well, but when someone speaks fast, I just can't follow. Does that happen to you too?
Absolutely, Emily. It can be really frustrating. You listen and you recognize the words, but somehow the meaning gets lost. Sometimes, it's like the words are flying by too quickly and you can't catch them all. It feels like you're missing the point even when the person is talking about something simple.
Yes, and it's not just about speed. Native speakers often use contractions or connect words in a way that sounds very different from how we learn in textbooks. For example, instead of "what are you doing," they say "what you doing" or "what you doing." It can sound like a completely new language.
That's a good example. Also, people sometimes use slang or idioms that aren't easy to guess if you don't hear them regularly. All these things add up and make listening difficult for learners.
I remember when I started learning English, I would freeze in conversations because I was afraid I wouldn't understand. I would get nervous and stop listening carefully. That made it even harder to follow the next sentences.
Exactly. It becomes a cycle. The more you struggle to understand, the less confident you feel and the less you want to practice listening. That's why it's so important to break that cycle.
And the good news is that it's totally normal. Every learner goes through this phase. The problem is not you, it's the way we often learn English, mostly reading and writing, and not enough listening practice.
Right. Plus, many learners try to understand every single word, but that's almost impossible at first. Instead, the goal should be to catch the main idea and some key words or phrases.
That's a great point. You don't need to understand everything perfectly to follow a conversation. It's okay to guess some meanings from the context or the speaker's tone.
So, what can you do when listening feels hard? First, don't get discouraged. It's part of the learning process. Second, practice listening every day with materials you enjoy and that are at your level.
That's why this episode is so helpful. You'll hear us speaking clearly, slowly, and naturally throughout our day. We'll also pause sometimes to explain phrases and repeat important sentences.
And by listening to a day in the life story, you'll get used to hearing English used in everyday situations, which makes it easier to understand when you hear similar conversations in real life.
Remember, improving listening takes time, but with consistent practice, you will notice your brain starts to catch words faster, your confidence grows, and conversations become easier.
So don't give up. Keep practicing, keep listening, and soon you'll be surprised at how much you understand.
Okay, now that we know the problem and how normal it is, let's move to the next part. Understanding why listening feels difficult and what happens in your brain when you try to follow spoken English.
Yes, understanding this will help you stay motivated and find better ways to improve.
Ready? Let's go. So, Liam, we talked about how many learners struggle with listening, but I think it's really important to understand why it feels so hard sometimes. There are both emotional and logical reasons behind this challenge.
Definitely, Emily. Let's start with the emotional side. When you hear fast English and don't catch everything, it's easy to feel frustrated or even anxious. You might think, why can't I understand like others? Am I not good enough? These thoughts make listening even harder.
Yes, and sometimes that anxiety causes your brain to freeze up. Instead of focusing, you start worrying about missing words, and then you miss even more. It's like a loop. The more you worry, the less you understand.
Exactly. And don't forget, many learners feel shy or embarrassed when they don't understand in conversations. That fear of making mistakes or looking silly can make people avoid speaking and listening practice altogether.
That's a real problem, but the good news is it's something you can overcome. The first step is realizing that everyone struggles. Even native speakers have trouble understanding sometimes, especially with different accents or fast talk.
Now, on the logical side, the difficulty comes from the way spoken English works. In books, you see every word clearly written, but in real speech, people don't say every word fully. They shorten words, link sounds together, or use slang.
Right. For example, going to becomes gonna, want to becomes wanna, and did you sounds like do. These are natural parts of English, but if you only learn formal textbook English, they can feel like a mystery.
Another logical cause is how our brains process sounds. If you're used to learning by reading, your brain expects clear, separate words. But in speech, words flow together quickly, and your brain needs practice to recognize them as one.
Plus, if you don't listen regularly, your brain doesn't get used to the speed or different accents. That makes it harder to catch meaning in real conversations.
Exactly. But the good news is your brain is very adaptable. With consistent listening practice, it learns to recognize sounds and patterns faster, just like how you learn to recognize faces or music.
So, to summarize, emotionally, anxiety and fear can block your listening. Logically, the way people speak and how your brain processes sounds make listening challenging, but both can be improved with the right approach.
That's why this podcast is designed to give you slow, clear English and explain things step by step, helping your brain adjust and build confidence.
And remember, it's okay to feel frustrated sometimes. The important thing is to keep going and practice regularly.
Now that we understand why listening is hard, let's move on to some practical solutions. We'll start with a simple but powerful tip you can use every morning to train your ears.
Great. Let's talk about solution number one. Start your day with slow, clear listening. All right, Liam, let's dive into our first solution for improving listening skills. One of the best ways to train your ears is to start your day with slow, clear English. Why do you think that's important?
Starting your day with English helps your brain get ready for learning. Just like how a good breakfast fuels your body, listening to English in the morning gives your brain energy and focus for the day ahead.
Exactly. When you listen to slow and clear English first thing, your ears and mind start to wake up. It's easier to pay attention and you absorb the sounds better than if you jump straight into fast or complicated content.
For example, I like to listen to short podcasts or videos designed for English learners, something that's easy to understand with clear pronunciation and simple sentences. It only takes 5 or 10 minutes, but it makes a huge difference.
You can even do this while doing your morning routine, brushing your teeth, making breakfast, or stretching. This way, you make listening practice a natural part of your day without needing extra time.
Let's try an example together. Imagine you just woke up. I'll say a few sentences slowly, and then you can repeat after me. I wake up at 7 o'clock. I get out of bed. I brush my teeth. I wash my face. I stretch my arms.
Great. Now, say those sentences out loud with me. It helps you practice pronunciation and listening at the same time. I wake up at 7 o'clock. I get out of bed. I brush my teeth. I wash my face. I stretch my arms.
Perfect. When you repeat sentences like this regularly, you train your brain to recognize the sounds and patterns of English. Over time, you'll find it easier to understand faster speech, too.
Exactly. Another tip is to choose topics that interest you. If you like cooking, listen to simple cooking podcasts in English in the morning. If you like sports, find easy sports news. When you enjoy the topic, you'll stay motivated.
And don't worry about understanding every word. Focus on catching the main idea and familiar words. Your brain will fill in the gaps as you listen more.
Exactly. Remember, slow and clear listening first thing in the morning build a strong foundation for your day's English practice.
Try to make this a daily habit. Even 5 minutes every morning adds up quickly and makes a huge difference.
All right, that's our first solution. Next, we'll talk about how to use your daily routine itself as a way to practice listening and speaking English naturally. Okay, Liam, so after starting your day with slow, clear listening, what's the next step? I think using your daily routine as a chance to practice English is a powerful idea.
Absolutely, Emily. Your daily life is full of simple actions and moments that you can turn into English practice anytime. Instead of waiting for a special study time, you can describe what you're doing in English while you do it.
That's right. For example, when you're making breakfast, you can say to yourself or out loud, I'm boiling water. I'm cutting bread. I'm spreading butter. These simple sentences help you practice both listening and speaking.
And if you listen to someone describing their daily routine in English, like in this podcast, your brain learns to connect words with actions. That makes understanding easier when you hear similar sentences in real life.
Let's do a little practice. Right now, I'm making tea. I'll say the steps slowly. You can repeat after me. I'm boiling water. I'm putting a tea bag in the cup. I'm pouring hot water. I'm adding honey.
Great, now it's my turn. I'm getting ready to leave the house. I'm putting on my shoes. I'm picking up my bag. I'm locking the door.
Perfect. When you speak out loud like this, even if it's just to yourself, it helps your brain get used to English sounds and sentence patterns.
You can also listen to English videos or podcasts about daily routines, then try to say similar sentences in your own words. This makes learning active, not passive.
Another tip is to create a small list of daily action phrases. Every day, pick a few and practice saying them while you do the activity.
For example, I'm washing the dishes. I'm sweeping the floor. I'm taking a shower. These short, simple sentences are very useful.
And don't worry if you make mistakes. The important part is to keep trying and speaking. Mistakes help you learn.
Also, when you listen to people talk about their routines, pay attention to how they connect words. You might hear, I'm gonna, instead of I am going to. This helps your brain adjust to real spoken English.
So, your daily routine is like a practice ground for English. You don't need fancy lessons. Just talk to yourself or imagine describing your actions.
Exactly. The more you practice this, the easier listening and speaking will become.
All right, next, we'll talk about how to surround yourself with English throughout the day, even when you're not actively studying. So, Liam, now that we've talked about starting your day with slow listening and using your routine as practice, what's the next step?
The next big idea is to surround yourself with English passively. This means having English playing in the background during your daily activities, even when you're not focusing fully on it.
Right. This is called passive listening. For example, you might listen to English music, podcasts, or videos while you're cleaning your room, cooking, or even commuting.
The magic of passive listening is that your brain starts to get used to English sounds and rhythms without you needing to concentrate all the time.
Exactly. At first, you might not understand much, but just by hearing English regularly, your brain trains itself to recognize words and patterns faster.
I remember when I first started learning, I would play English songs or simple podcasts while doing other things. I didn't always focus, but over time, I noticed I could catch more words and phrases without trying hard.
That's the power of immersion, making English a natural part of your environment. You don't have to create extra study time. Instead, you turn regular moments into learning moments.
A good way to start is to create an English playlist with your favorite podcasts, audiobooks, or music. Then play it during daily tasks like walking, cleaning, or even exercising.
And don't worry if you don't understand everything. The goal is to get your brain comfortable with English sounds. Later, when you listen actively, you'll find it easier to catch details.
Here's a tip. Mix easier materials with slightly harder ones. For example, listen to a simple podcast one day, then try a normal conversation or news clip the next. This challenges your brain and helps it improve.
Also, try to listen to different English accents. There's American, British, Australian, and more. The more accents you hear, the better you become at understanding English in any situation.
That's a great point. Sometimes learners avoid different accents because they think it's too hard, but it's actually very helpful to get used to variety.
So, passive listening is a low stress way to improve. You don't have to understand everything immediately, just let English fill your environment.
And remember, even native speakers do this. They listen to the radio or podcasts while driving or working, and it helps their brains stay tuned to language.
All right, next we'll talk about a question everyone has. What to do when you hear something you don't understand?
Yes, that can be frustrating, but there are smart ways to handle it.
Now, Liam, here comes a question many learners have. What do you do when you hear something in English but don't understand it? That moment when someone says something and your brain just stops. What's the best way to handle that?
Great question, Emily. First of all, don't panic. It's completely normal to miss words or phrases, especially when you're still learning. Instead of getting frustrated or giving up, there are some steps you can take to turn that moment into a learning opportunity.
The first step is simple. Pause. If you're listening to a podcast or video and you don't understand a part, stop the audio. Give yourself a moment to breathe and prepare to listen again.
Next, rewind and repeat. Listen to that tricky sentence or phrase again, maybe 2 or 3 times. Try to focus on the sounds and the meaning. Sometimes when you hear it again, it starts to make more sense.
And don't worry if you don't get every word. Try to catch the main idea or keywords. Even if you only understand part of the sentence, it's still progress.
Another helpful tip is to use subtitles or transcripts if they're available. Reading along while listening can help connect the sounds to the words, which is very powerful for your brain.
I love this tip. When I started, I used to listen to English videos with subtitles. I would listen once without subtitles, then watch again with subtitles to check what I missed.
Exactly. Writing down new or difficult words and phrases is also a good idea. Keep a notebook or use your phone to save these words. Then practice saying them out loud.
And remember, it's okay to make mistakes when practicing. Don't be afraid to try in speaking new words, even if you're unsure. Mistakes help you learn faster.
One more thing, don't feel like you need to understand everything right away. Your brain is learning to recognize patterns and sounds. The more you practice, the easier it gets.
So, to sum up, when you don't understand something, pause, rewind, listen again, use subtitles if possible, write down new words, and practice speaking.
And most importantly, stay patient and kind to yourself. Listening takes time, and every step forward is progress.
In our next part, we'll show you a real example, a conversation between us, so you can see how we use these tips in daily life.
Yes, a role play that you can listen to and practice with.
Stay with us. All right, Liam, now it's time for our role play. We'll have a simple conversation about our day using clear and natural English. Listeners, try to listen carefully and repeat after us if you want.
Sounds great. I'll start. Emily, how did you start your morning today?
Hi, Liam. I woke up around 7 a.m. First, I stretched and then brushed my teeth. After that, I made a cup of tea and listened to an English podcast while having breakfast.
That sounds nice. I usually wake up at 6:30 a.m. I like to drink a glass of water and then do some light exercise before I eat.
Exercise is great for waking up. What kind of exercise do you do?
I do some stretching and a few push-ups. It helps me feel energetic for the day. After that, I study English for about 30 minutes.
Wow, 30 minutes is a good amount of time. What do you study?
I focus on vocabulary and listening practice. I like to watch videos with subtitles and repeat sentences out loud.
That's a smart way to learn. I try to do something similar. After breakfast, I review new words from the podcast I listen to.
What do you do after studying?
I usually go for a walk in the afternoon. I listen to English songs or another podcast while walking. It helps me relax and learn at the same time.
Walking and listening. That sounds like a great way to practice passive listening. I also like to listen to English while cooking dinner.
Me too. Cooking is a perfect time to listen without needing to focus too hard. You can still catch words and get used to the sounds.
Before bed, I like to watch a short English video with subtitles. Then I write down any new phrases I learned during the day.
That's a great habit. Writing helps your memory a lot. What do you do if you don't understand something in the video?
I pause and rewind. Sometimes I listen several times. If I still don't get it, I check the subtitles or look up the meaning.
That's a perfect way to learn. Listeners, try practicing a similar conversation about your day. You can even record yourself to improve your speaking.
Yes, and try to use simple sentences. The goal is to build confidence and get used to English sounds.
Remember, it's okay to speak slowly and make mistakes. The important thing is to keep practicing.
All right, that was a good conversation. Hopefully, it helped you practice listening and speaking at the same time.
Next, we'll look at some useful vocabulary and phrases from today's episode to help you remember and use them. Welcome back. Now, let's focus on some important words and phrases from our episode today. Learning these will help you understand and use English better in daily life.
Great. The first word is wake up. It means to stop sleeping. For example, I wake up at 7 o'clock every morning. Try saying it with me. Wake up.
Next is stretch. This means to move your arms and legs to feel looser and more relaxed after sleeping. For example, I stretch my arms after waking up.
Another useful phrase is make breakfast. It means to prepare food in the morning. For example, she makes breakfast before going to work.
Good one. How about listen to? This is a very common phrase meaning to pay attention to sounds or speech. For example, I listen to English podcasts every day.
Here's a helpful one. Pause. It means to stop something for a short time. For example, I pause the video when I don't understand a word.
And rewind means to go back to an earlier part of a video or audio. For example, I rewind the podcast to hear that sentence again.
Last for today is repeat after me. This means to say something again, usually to practice speaking. For example, repeat after me. I'm learning English.
Great job. Try to use these words and phrases in your own sentences. You can practice by describing your day, just like we did.
Remember, using new vocabulary often helps your brain remember it better. So don't just listen. Try to speak and write these words too.
Also, don't be afraid to make mistakes. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
Would you like to try a quick exercise? I'll say a sentence with a new word, and you repeat after me.
Sounds fun. Let's do it.
I wake up at 7 a.m. Repeat, please.
I wake up at 7 a.m.
I stretch my arms every morning.
I stretch my arms every morning.
I make breakfast for my family.
I make breakfast for my family.
I listen to English podcasts.
I listen to English podcasts.
I pause the video when I don't understand.
I pause the video when I don't understand.
I rewind the podcast to listen again.
I rewind the podcast to listen again.
Repeat after me. I'm practicing English every day.
I'm practicing English every day.
Excellent work. Keep practicing these phrases daily and you'll see improvement soon.
All right, next up is the final part, our motivational recap and call to action. We're almost at the end of today's episode, and I just want to take a moment to remind you how amazing it is that you're here, practicing your English with us. Learning a new language isn't always easy, but every step you take, no matter how small, moves you closer to your goal.
That's so true, Emily. Remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. If you want to improve your listening and speaking, you have to try new things and practice regularly. Starting your day with slow listening, using your daily routine, surrounding yourself with English, and learning how to handle tricky moments, all these steps add up.
And don't forget, mistakes are a natural part of learning. Every mistake is a chance to get better. So don't be afraid to speak, to listen, and to make errors. That's how you grow.
Think about how far you've come already. Even by listening to this podcast, you're training your brain, improving your skills, and building confidence.
Exactly. And if you ever feel stuck or frustrated, remember that progress often happens slowly but surely. Keep being patient with yourself.
Also, one of the best ways to learn is to connect with others who are learning too. Share your journey, practice with friends or online groups, and don't be shy to ask questions.
We want you to feel supported and motivated. That's why we're here, to help you every step of the way.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss future lessons and conversations. And if you found this helpful, share it with your friends who are also learning English.
We'd love to hear from you too. Leave a comment below telling us what part of today's episode helped you the most or what topic you want us to cover next.
Remember, your English journey is unique, and every bit of practice counts. Keep going, keep listening, and keep speaking.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. We're proud of you and we believe in you.
See you in the next episode of Speak English with Mishu. Keep practicing and have a wonderful day.
Bye for now.